So we have some breaking news according to the CBC. Later today, Peter MacKay is going to be announcing that he's running for Conservative Party leader. This really isn't a surprise to me. Indeed, just a couple days after the election, I made videos talking about how Peter MacKay was going to be vying to replace Andrew Scheer. At that time, we didn't know when Andrew Scheer was going to go down, but I was confident that he would go down. I didn't know it was going to be for scandal. I thought he was going to be replaced by the party membership. But I knew that when Andrew Scheer went down, Peter MacKay would be one of the leading challengers. And MacKay bided his time because you can't announce your candidacy while the old guy is still in the job. It makes you look uncouth. But by waiting, by planting his seeds behind the scenes, he's found out that this is his time to run. He's not the first to enter the race. People like Erin O'Toole and Pierre Poilievre have announced that they're also running, but Peter MacKay has to be considered a tier 1 candidate, maybe the frontrunner, and that's for a variety of reasons. Peter MacKay was a longtime MP before he temporarily left federal politics just before the 2015 election. He served in Stephen Harper's cabinet. Before serving in Harper's cabinet, he was a member of the Progressive Conservative Party, the last leader of that party before the merger that formed the new Conservative Party, and so has a long role in Canadian politics. He's also very popular in the Maritimes, in Nova Scotia specifically, and he's potentially the sort of conservative that could well appeal to relative moderates. Now, of course, as an NDP guy, as a left-winger, you'd never catch me voting conservative or even liberal, but at the end of the day, one of the Conservative Party's main challenges over the past half-decade has been the perception that they're too right-wing, and that they do very well in conservative Alberta and Saskatchewan, but key swing ridings in Ontario and Quebec, and even in parts of the Maritimes, they're losing those to the Liberals, and because of that, they're unable to form government. And what we saw in the 2019 election was Andrew Scheer winning the popular vote based off really, really strong results in the West, but losing close races in Ontario and Quebec and the Maritimes, and that's ultimately what cost him the election, and almost gave Justin Trudeau a majority, even though Trudeau got less votes than Scheer. That's because the Liberal vote is more efficient. Someone like Peter MacKay is going to be able to make the argument, whether you think it's accurate or not, or truthful or not, that he will be something of a moderate, that he will appeal outside the Western bubble of the Conservative Party, and that he will be a challenge to Trudeau nationally, but especially in places like suburban Ontario, where the Liberal Party won this election. There are parts of the country that are diehard red, there's parts of the country that are diehard blue, but at the end of the day, it's those swing areas that the Conservatives have been unable to win since 2011 when Harper won a majority government. They have to get back to winning those, and you might well argue that somebody who's poised as a, diehard conservative won't be able to do it. And I think his chances just got better, frankly, because earlier today, according to La Presse, Rona Ambrose won't be seeking the Conservative leadership. Now, Rona Ambrose was also a longtime Conservative MP. She left politics just a couple years ago. She served in a variety of cabinet positions, and she served as the interim leader after Stephen Harper left and before Andrew Scheer took on the full-time job a few years ago. And she was popular in that role. She's seen as something of a moderate as well. She's seen as someone that's embraced LGBTQ communities within the Conservative Party and is seen as less of a quote-unquote, Christian fundamentalist. It should be remembered that she was willing during Harper's government to reopen the question of a woman's right to choose, but ultimately, relative to a lot of other conservatives, she was seen as a moderate. And so a ton of people, what they want from the Conservative Party, whether they're going to vote for them or not, is they want somebody who's at least on social questions centrist. That's what they want. They want somebody who's not rabidly anti-immigrant. They want somebody who's not rabidly insistent on traditional social values, whatever the heck that means. They want somebody who offers policy that's designed to offer a conservative perspective, but not at a point that it denies the fundamental human rights of other people. That's one of the reasons people didn't vote for Scheer. Now, you could be a conservative listening and say, well, that's not a fair characterization of social conservative policy. But the point is that regardless of whether it's fair or not, that's what the majority of swing voters in Canada felt, and that's why Scheer lost in Ontario and Quebec. Someone like Peter MacKay is ideally poised to compete for the conservative leadership and for the prime ministership. The question is going to be, however, how will the conservative membership see him? If the conservative membership is laser focused on picking the person that can defeat Justin Trudeau, then I think Peter MacKay will do very well. If they're focused on particular policy points and representing the ideology and policies and worldview of the Conservative Party and the conservative movement, he might struggle. I'm not saying it's impossible for him to win, but he might struggle vis-a-vis more ideologically rooted candidates. And so that's going to be a real test for Peter MacKay and for the rest of the field. For the rest of the field, I think they're going to find it difficult to make the argument that they're more electable than MacKay. And for MacKay, if he tries to run as a moderate, he might have difficulties convincing people in his party that he's not just a, liberal in conservative clothing. That's going to be one of the key, meta debates in this race. So far, Peter MacKay is really poising himself as the quintessential moderate. That's really what I feel is going to happen. With Rona Ambrose not running, I feel like that lane might be more open for him. If Ambrose was running, I think they would have really fought with one another. They could have sapped each other's energies, but I think MacKay has a bit more of an open path given Ambrose's lack of interest in running. And I have to say that Justin Trudeau likely doesn't want Peter MacKay as Conservative Party leader because there's a few challenges there. One, if he portrays himself as a moderate and does so credibly to the broader Canadian public, that will hurt Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party in key ridings in Quebec and Ontario, as I've noted. But specifically, it'll make Liberal fear-mongering of the Conservative Party much more difficult. Not impossible, but more difficult. One of the things the Liberal Party is so good at doing here in Canada is going to non-conservative voters and saying, if you don't vote for us, the Conservatives will get you. Even though the Liberals and Conservatives on more policies than not actually agree. But that's because Andrew Scheer had the real image and aura of a social conservative. He didn't go to pride parades. He had really troubling personal views to a lot of Canadians. And even if he wasn't putting them into policy, people didn't trust him that when he got into power, he wouldn't change his mind. If a conservative leader does have the ability to look like a social moderate, it takes a key liberal arrow out of their quiver and makes them weaker in a general election. So I think that Peter MacKay has a great chance of winning the conservative leadership. I'm not going to vote for him. I'm not going to vote for Justin Trudeau either. Looking to the next election, Jagmeet Singh's got my vote. But I have to say that Peter MacKay really could shake things up in federal Canadian politics. And if he's able to convince the hardline conservatives that he's got the special sauce to defeat Justin Trudeau, and if that's your goal, you got to stick with me, then I think he's going to be the next leader. And maybe he'll be the next prime minister too.